Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar, Clicks, Clones, and Conversions, the State of Search Engine Advertising in 2017. I'm Lucia from Custom, Digiday's creative content agency, and I will be your moderator. Thanks for joining us for this webinar presented by our partner, Marin Software. Just a little bit about Marin. The Marin Advertising Cloud activates your first-party marketing cloud data to help you identify and convert precise, active, and profitable audiences across the digital advertising landscape. Leveraging your CRM, email, and analytical data, Marin automates your search, social, and display advertising across publishers and devices. Marin's open, flexible platform seamlessly links and deduplicates your CRM, audience revenue, and contextual data from any source, allowing you to better understand your online and offline performance, optimize your online campaigns, and convert higher value customers. By simplifying integrations from multiple first and third-party sources into a single platform, Marin saves you valuable time. Marin's single view of your data and performance helps advertisers gain security over your marketing cloud data and eliminate the need for disparate point solutions. Now, I would like to introduce our wonderful presenter, Patrick Hutchinson, the Product Marketing Manager at Marin. He has been on the Marin team for 10 years, filling roles as diverse as Search Manager, Solutions Architect, and Sales Engineer. In 2015, he became a product marketing manager and now helps create effective customer success stories and evangelizes the Marin brand. Patrick graduated from the University of California, Davis with a BS in managerial economics. A question and answer period will follow the presentation, so please stay with us until the end. Feel free to submit questions at any time via the GoToWebinar platform. Everyone who registered for today's webinar is going to receive an email with a recording of the session tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. Okay, let's get started. Patrick, take it away.
Thank you, Lucia, and welcome to everyone to this webinar. Thank you for joining me. As the introduction stated, my name is Patrick Hutchinson. I'm focused on product marketing here at Marin Software, and the philosophy behind how we build our software is manage, measure, and optimize, and those are going to be sort of the themes that we'll touch on as we go through the presentation today. So the purpose of today's presentation is to understand what are the challenges for marketers in 2017. Marin Software has been in business for 10 years, and we manage over $7 billion in ad spend worldwide, and we interviewed 500 leading marketers from agencies and top brands in our portfolio and asked them, what are your top challenges? And my goal for today is to help explain these challenges to you and to give you insight for where some of your competition might be struggling, where they're focusing their attention this year, and to give you new strategies and tactics that can help you improve your program as we're getting increasingly more competitive in the online domain, buying ads on Google and Facebook and others. So to get started, we'll look at kind of the top line results for some of the interesting feedback that we saw. So 30% of marketers told us that attribution and cross-device attribution in particular is a challenge for 2017. And we're seeing a trend is that marketers are really starting to move past the last click because the customer journey is becoming much more complex, and they want to understand how is someone discovering my brand, and then how are they matriculating through the funnel and finally converting. And so we'll talk about this in more detail as the presentation goes on. Next up, integrating search and social. This was nearly the same amount of people said this is a major challenge for them in 2017, but it's also an area of opportunity. And this is really about finding people that might be interested in your product in upper funnel activity, which typically tends to be social, and then driving them through the funnel to that lower funnel activity, which social has also added new ad types, and then Google is of course, that's their bread and butter. On that same topic, 37% of marketers said that replicating publisher campaigns across different publishers and channels is challenging, and that's by design. Google and Facebook have built their own ecosystems, and that includes different ways of buying ads and different ads that you can buy. And so we'll talk about this in some more detail, and also ways that you can automate this process to free up time for new opportunities in your marketing activities. Third-party data integration, 15% of marketers said this is a challenge for them. This is really enriching your first-party data with other data sets to help you make smarter decisions. And then 22% of marketers said that lack of expertise is a challenge for them. And this makes sense because it seems almost daily I wake up and there's something new that's happened in our space. So not only do you have to stay on top of the news, you have to understand if these changes are going to be positive or negative, and then how to adjust your marketing program accordingly. And, for everyone in attendance here, coming to webinars like this is a great way to stay on top of the latest and greatest to make sure that you're staying ahead of the competition. With that, we'll dive in and we'll start to look at each of these in more detail. And we'll start with attribution. So just to reiterate, 30% of digital advertisers noted that attribution was one of their greatest challenges for 2017. And if we think about today's customer journey, it's incredibly complex, just given the nature of how consumers are changing their behavior. On average, people unlock their phones 150 times per day. And so as marketers, this gives us this huge amount of opportunity to interact with customers, because typically when you unlock your phone, you have a job to be done. It might be you have some time to kill between meetings or between classes. It might be that you want to do some research. It might be that you fill in the blank. And based on where your different audiences are in that customer journey, you want to set up hooks in order to capture those people's attention and make sure that they continue down the path to purchase your product. And what we're looking at here is just an example of upper funnel activity leading to lower funnel activity. Is one example of a user journey. As we go into the next slide here, I like to put this kind of abstract concept into a real example. So if we think about Molly here, and Molly, we can say maybe just went to Coachella and she's decided that she found some new bands and she wants to upgrade her headphones and improve her listening experience. So she might pull out her phone and she might go onto social media and try and get recommendations or ideas from her friends or influencers that she follows to understand what are some of the better headphones that are available today, what's cool, and this is where people get inspiration. And once she starts to enter the funnel, this is really where we can start to engage Molly. She may be working on multiple devices. If she's part of the Apple family, maybe she has a laptop or a tablet or a phone, some combination there. And she's going to start searching for prices, reviews, and she may even walk into a brick and mortar store. And it's important to remember that on average, 90% plus of retail transactions still happen in brick and mortar store locations. And as digital marketers, we're increasingly helping drive those transactions. And so we want to get credit for not only transactions that happen online, but also transactions that happen offline. And so we'll assume that Molly picked out a pair of headphones that she wants to purchase, whether that be on our website, on our app, or a old school point of sale transaction. And as marketers, if we want to move beyond that last click attribution, we want to be able to attribute this back to Molly's full user journey that interacted with our paid media. And the problem for most marketers is what I call, it's a bit of a black hole. There's some real science behind taking that transaction and then giving credit to those interactions that led to that event. So at Marin Software, we're working with a number of attribution partners to help our marketers make sense of that user journey. And here's a sampling of some of the attribution partners that are plug and play with our software application. And the reason that we think this is important, and as you're seeing in the survey results, marketers do as well, is that if we take a simple view of attribution, if we look at a kind of a linear journey that goes from a Facebook ad where someone learns about, discovers our product, and then they start to do their homework, maybe on Google, and they click on a product or a search ad, and then they transact. A very simple linear customer journey, boom, boom, purchase. It's interesting to contrast how the publishers are going to treat this versus how a holistic attribution solution is going to look at this. So if we look at the first scenario where we're using Facebook tracking, Google tracking, both of those publishers are going to try and claim credit for that transaction. And that's nothing malicious. That basically just is that they saw that a user interacted with their ads and then transacted, and they're not really focused on what else is happening. And so in this example, you'd see that Facebook would claim that $100 and one conversion, and then Google would do the same thing, $100, one conversion. So for a marketer, this can create confusion, because if you pull your reports from both of these publishers and try and make sense of them, your numbers will be naturally inflated. It'll look like a $200 event happened and 2 conversions came out of it, when in fact it was just a single transaction for $100. Now, if we contrast that with a attribution system that looks at the full user journey and gives equal credit to the contribution margin of each click, what we would do here is Facebook would get half the credit, Google will get half the credit, and then as a marketer, you have a true view of what's actually occurring. And this would be a simple even split. You could also do different weightings where maybe you give more credit to upper funnel, or you could give more credit to lower funnel. But the point here is that if you're going to be competing with marketers today, there are some marketers that are really focused on getting a full view of the playing board. And if you're just focused on a piece of the playing board, it makes it more challenging to make strategic moves as you move forward in the future. All right, so moving on, the next section we're going to talk about is 26% of B2C digital marketers cite that integrating paid search and paid social channels is a top challenge for 2017. And, it's interesting to think about why this might be the case. And one really interesting piece of research that I found recently is just looking at Google and Facebook's, the amount of time that people collectively spend on Google and Facebook properties. And it turns out that collectively, 3 out of every 4 internet minutes is spent on one of these two properties. And you can see that Google's held pretty steady, but Facebook has really climbed dramatically. They've stolen share from other big publishers, and if you kind of look to the right here, you can see that they're starting to steal some share from Google. They eclipsed Google last year at 39% to 35%. And so what we're emphasizing is that really mastering Google and Facebook is to your advantage. This is where you get the most bang for your buck. And this a great quote from Forrester that found they did their own research, and they found that marketers that are managing their search and social spend on a single platform outperform their peers by 3x. And we did our own research to validate this. And what we found is we looked across our entire ad spend, sort of a macro view, and we wanted to understand. We basically segmented our advertisers by advertisers that are managing social only, advertisers that are managing search only, which is that middle bar, and then advertisers that are running search and social through our platform. And what we found is that the conversion rate for marketers that are connecting their search and social advertising campaigns is dramatically higher, and that's what you're seeing on the far right there. Conversion rates are around 3.5% versus search where they're between 1.5% and 2%, and then social where they tend to be around 1%. And not only are the conversion rates higher, the revenue per click is also higher. So the idea and what we found here is just that if you're running your campaigns together, you're going to have far better results. You're going to make each dollar produce more revenue on the other side of that equation, and you're basically going to make both channels work harder. And that, in part, is because these marketers are able to see how the customer journey begins and how it ends, and then also to coordinate the messaging between channels once you engage someone to make sure that your messaging is aligned with their interest. So to give you a couple of examples of how this works, one strategy that we're recommending for customers is a new spin on retargeting. So I think everyone on the phone is probably very familiar with retargeting. It has extremely high return on ad spend because you're capturing people when they're about to make a purchasing decision. So we're big fans of retargeting. We use it in lots of different ways. But one way that's been very interesting is, sort of like a retargeting 2.0 is what I call it, where we're adding in a search intent signal. And so what we're doing here is we're capturing people's search intent to better inform how we want to bid on the retargeting spend. And so we'll walk through 2 examples in this slide. The first example is looking at someone that is associated with your brand. So they're specifically searching for your brand, which means that there's a very high probability that they're interested in buying something that you're selling. And then the second example we'll look at is someone that is in market but not necessarily aware of your brand yet, which presents a different opportunity. So the first one, someone's searching for a Land Rover. They want to buy a truck. We can capture that in our audience targeting and put them into an audience that I'll call brand specific. And then we can customize our messaging when they move on to a social channel, for one example, or if they move on to display, we can customize their messaging there as well. But the idea here is that we know this person likes our product. They already know our product. let's make sure that we custom tailor the messaging to continue them on our path and prevent them from looking for different brands. And then the other example here would be someone that searches for SUV comparison. So this would be more of a broad match type keyword, someone that is in market for purchasing an SUV, but they aren't necessarily looking for a specific brand. So this could be one opportunity to potentially conquest and avoid this person from picking a different brand. So we'll put them into our in-market bucket for audience targeting, and then you can see that we'll also customize our messaging. We know that this person wants an SUV. We don't know if they're aware of our brand yet. Let's make sure that they are aware of our brand and why it's special and why they should work with us. Now, to look at a real-life example, we have a customer in our European market that used this tactic, and if you look at this from left to right, they basically were creating audiences off of their high-end or high ROI keywords, and they built an audience that had a reach of about 50,000 people. So that's what you're seeing in that middle section. And then they took that original audience and they built lookalike audiences off of it. And these lookalike audiences were enhanced with that search intent data. And the results from doing this approach were really strong. So we're looking at, if you look at the left-hand side first, you're basically seeing that the search intent retargeting had 14% better performance than normal retargeting. And then if we go to the right-hand side performance, it's the same idea. We're looking at the lookalike performance with search intent layered on versus lookalike modeling or results without the search intent. And you can see that had even better performance at 45% lower CPA. And so this would be one example of a tactic that helps lead to this multiplier effect between search and social when you're coordinating your efforts between channels and also enhancing your retargeting capabilities by layering in that search intent to understand which audiences you should spend the most effort and which strategy you should use when you're trying to go after them. Another case study that is also useful to look at, this is an OEM out of a European market as well. There's a description of the case study that you can read in your own time, but the main takeaway here is that this is sort of the holy grail for marketers. The cost per lead decreased dramatically by 77%, while the conversions increased over 100%. So this is, whenever we work with new customers, this is exactly what they ask for, and this is one of the best strategies that we're using on a daily basis with our customer base to really achieve top results. So I highly recommend that you check it out. And if you're interested, Marin software helps coordinate this effort automatically between the different channels. Cool. So speaking of cross-channel campaigns, 37% of brands said that replicating campaigns across publishers was one of their top challenges to maximize their ROI in 2017. And so, at Marin software, I can kind of talk about some automation that we're putting in place to help make this a simple process of build once and then replicate to channels and publishers that you think are important. So one example of this that's been successful for us is our customers are meticulous about maintaining their Google campaigns, and they want an easy way to have those changes replicated over to one of our partners like Bing. And so we built a tool that allows different parts of a campaign structure or the entire campaign structure to automatically be ported over to Bing and then to be kept in sync. So anytime you make a change to Google, it automatically gets updated within Bing. So this has been great because Bing has 30% market share, and it's a great way to find more customers searching for your potential product. In the same way, we've also done a similar thing to go search to social, and we call this Smart Sync. It allows you to take your shopping campaigns on Google or Bing and then have them automatically replicated into Facebook's corresponding product called Dynamic Product Ads. And this has been a big hit. It basically is a great way, if you're not doing Dynamic Product Ads just yet, it's really, I call it the easy button to get up and running quickly and without having a ton of expertise in Facebook. So if you're interested in this, this would be another example of automation that we're building in-house to help our advertisers take their campaigns that they're already working in one channel and have them pushed to another publisher or channel. And then just a great quote from one of our customers, Photobox. They saw that this worked really well. So I'll leave that there for a second. And moving on, another trend that we're seeing in the market today is, you think of your own experience when you're watching TV. Typically someone's going to have that second screen in front of them. They'll be watching their show, commercial comes on, or even if it's kind of a slow point in the show, they'll pull out their phone and start browsing around. And so what we found is about 65% of people tend to do this sort of second screen effect when they're watching TV. And this creates opportunities for marketers to engage audiences. So there's one product we work with that allows us to coordinate our digital ads with TV ads. So you could, for example, during a Monday Night Football game, if a Ford ad comes on, you could coordinate. If you're trying to conquest, you could run your corresponding ad on Facebook or Google at the same time. So there's interesting tactics and strategies that can be executed, knowing that there's this change in behavior around watching TV and basically trying to capture people's attention. And on the same topic of replicating campaigns across publishers, we're starting to explore doing the same thing with social, because that is where people are spending a lot of their time. So if you're building out Facebook campaigns and you want those replicated to Instagram, Twitter, and others, that's another area that we're starting to focus in on. So with that, I will conclude the presentation and we'll open it up to questions and answers.
Thank you, Patrick. Those are some great insights. Just a reminder for all you attendees, a full recording of the webinar will be made available to you in a follow-up email that you will receive tomorrow. So like Patrick said, we're moving on to the question and answer portion of the webinar. Feel free to submit questions at any time via the GoToWebinar app. The first question we have, which tactic discussed today do you think has the most upside?
It's a good question. I think that the search intent retargeting, just for the sheer uplift that we're seeing in some of the case studies I shared, and if you're interested in learning about other case studies, more than happy to talk to you about that one-on-one. But just kind of across the board, it's this untapped opportunity that I don't think will remain untapped for forever. But since there isn't a ton of marketers doing this just yet, it's one of those sort of greenfield opportunities that our advertisers that are using it are experiencing really strong results. So I would definitely steer towards trying that one out first if you're thinking about putting any of these into action.
Awesome. And the next question we just came in, I want to use a technology vendor to help. What should I look for?
Yeah, so obviously I toot our own horn a little bit on the presentation here. I'm very bullish on what we do, but there is other technologies that help with different parts of this, different parts of these strategies. So as you're going through an evaluation period, you want to make sure that that the solution you're going to work with is going to be able to give you that full visibility across a customer journey. And that customer journey, the most important parts are really Facebook and Google these days, just because there's so much time and attention spent there. So you want to be able to have that full picture, and then you also want to be able to execute against that. So with Marin, we're able to execute on search and social and run those coordinated campaigns for you. And then lastly, beyond beyond the hard skills of building out that software application, you want to make sure that you have a strong support team as part of the software package. So at Marin, that's one of the things that we hold as a very important value, so that you have basically a strategic manager that's going to help give you these sort of insights. I shared a couple today in this presentation. There's lots more that we share on a regular basis with our customer base. So having that second pair of eyes and that expert that's going to give you some new ideas for things to pursue, I think is important when you're evaluating a technology partner that you want to work with. Yes.
I'll go right into the next one. Can you go into further detail how you're bucketing the brand-specific queries?
Sure. Yeah, that's a good question. And so if you're familiar with Google Labels, that was a innovation that we had that we call Dimensions, and it's the same idea basically. You're tagging your keywords according to where they fit within your keyword portfolio. So you might think of here's my brand keywords, here's my non-brand keywords, here's my product-specific keywords. The tagging is flexible, so you can tag those keywords however you want. And then basically, once that tagging is in place, we have part of our technology package is a way to transmit that data between publishers and between channels. And so we want to have you tag your keywords. So here's all my brand keywords, and then we capture that information and transmit it and basically fire off the right remarketing pixels based on that information that you're setting. So at a high level, that's kind of the approach. It's basically it's a really easy setup process, and the technology kind of takes care of the heavy lifting behind the scenes.
The next one that just came in, is there an opportunity to use Marin software on a trial basis?
It's a good question. Yeah, so there is potentially. I would recommend that anyone that is interested in discussing that, we have you can chat with us on our website. You can also give us a call, and we can kind of talk through the different scenarios. But yeah, we're happy to work with marketers kind of where they are today, and we want to make sure that that you're going to be successful. So I would recommend that jump on the phone, and we can kind of talk about where you are today and how we can get you set up and running.
Amazing, good to know. What are the best practices you've noticed for B2B customers?
For B2B customers, one of the most important things for a B2B customer is to go beyond that initial lead. So, we had, I'll give you a real example. We had a customer that came through to us, and prior to working with Marin software, they were only tracking the clicks to lead, and they weren't going beyond. And the time to revenue from that lead was about 6 months. And so it's all being tracked through their CRM system, but no one was connecting the dots to understand, how many of these leads are actually turning into paying customers. And so when they got set up on Marin software, that was one of the first things we recommended. We said, hey, let's pull in your CRM data, and we'll show you all the initial leads, but then we'll show you which ones are actually turning into paying customers. And what we found is that around $250,000 per month was being spent on keywords that converted up at the top of the funnel to leads, but then it turned out that almost none of those turned into paying customers. So that was instant savings of $250,000 that was reallocated to keywords that maybe didn't have tons of conversions, but if you stuck with those leads, they turned into high-paying customers. And so I would say that is the number one priority for B2B customers that we work with, is to make sure that you're fully tracking your funnel beyond that initial lead, which is typically how most B2B marketers work. They drive people to that lead page, maybe it's a white paper download, whatever it might be. Make sure that you go well beyond that to understand which of those leads is turning into paying customers, so that your ad spend is truly profitable. And then the next level you can go beyond that is to factor in lifetime value. So not only does this turn into revenue up front, but how long do my customers tend to stick with me? And what is that lifetime value against each of these keywords? With that sort of additional information, you can start to bid to true profitability on all of your keywords, and you can potentially justify spending a lot more money on certain ad types, whether that's top of funnel or bottom of funnel.
Great. And how are Marin clients typically crediting ViewThrough conversions?
It's a good question. It depends sort of on the tracking that you have in place. So with Marin's approach to this, we're an open platform, and you can use our tracking technology if you like, but there's also there's a whole cottage industry of tracking and attribution partners that are available that I showed a quick slide on earlier. And so if ViewThrough is important to your business, that's something that we'll track as well. And ViewThrough conversions can be tracked in the same way. So the way that the platform's architected, you can basically give conversion credit to any sort of event that's important to you, and then our bidding algorithm is going to take that into consideration when we're bidding towards some sort of goal, whether that be a CPA or a return ad spend. And so that's kind of our approach, our philosophy, which differs from some others in the marketplace.
Gotcha. And I just would like to give a little shout out to Molly, who made a comment that she's wearing the exact same headphones as that first example. Hey, Molly. The next question we have, what benefits client-facing do you get from better conversion numbers via the medium?
I'm not sure I follow the question, the last part via the medium, but if we look at the first part of that question, what benefits do you get from better conversion numbers? My preferred analogy is if you think about playing chess, in order to make the right move, you have to see the entire playing board. You have to kind of understand, like, if I move this piece here and I can move the next piece there, eventually that'll get you to a better place. If you're working with poor conversion numbers, it's sort of like playing chess, but you're only able to see a portion of the board. So you're sort of playing with your hand tied behind your back, and that's sort of the way that as some marketers are moving towards this model where they're getting a full view of the user journey, they're able to make better strategic moves. They're able to say, okay, because this upper funnel activity is making these other channels work harder, it actually makes a lot of sense to move a little bit more budget into those upper funnel activities. If you're still working on a last click basis, that you won't even know that that's a possibility. It might look like those upper funnel activities aren't converting, and you might actually remove money from there. And so the idea is you can build better predictive models with better data and having the right data. So we think that the basis of a strong marketing program today is having the best data possible at your fingertips, so you can make smarter decisions about how you move forward.
It's all about having that data. Next, have you seen a compression of time in customer journey to purchase when using a combo of search and social?
That's a good question, and that would actually be a great research project for me to work on. I don't know off the top of my head if it does. If we do see that someone running a synchronized social and search campaign is able to accelerate that process of someone going from discovery to interested to purchasing. But we do have that information in our database, and it's just a matter of me going in and running the numbers and seeing if that is the case. If you think about it just from kind of a theoretical point of view, that definitely is a possibility. Instead of starting over from scratch when someone goes from social to search, you can start to serve them very customized ads on Google to make sure that what they got interested in on social, the messaging on search is exactly the same, and vice versa. So there could be some of that, and I'm going to note that down as a project that would be fun to work on. Good question.
Great question. Are there any new publishers that you recommend performance marketers check out?
Good question. I'm always on the lookout for new opportunities. It's a great way to get incremental gains. And one of the publishers that we've been working closely with and we've seen really strong results is Yahoo Gemini. So everyone, I believe, is probably familiar with Yahoo's core product, search. They still have a tremendous audience. Over 1 billion users or consumers go to Yahoo on a monthly basis. The majority of those are mobile. And the search volume is still substantial, and they've launched a new product that allows you to target people in their native inventory based on their previous search intent. And so, we worked with a automobile company, and they basically came to us and said, "Hey, Marin Software, we have additional budget. We would like to spend it somewhere else outside of the normal channels." But we want to have performance results that are in line or better than what we're seeing on our normal channels. And so we recommended Gemini, and for their non-brand keywords, they ended up hitting a CPA that was 25% lower than what they get on their mainstream channels. And then for their brand keywords, they hit 50% lower for CPAs. So I would definitely recommend checking this out. It's a powerful medium. in part because the native ads really blend into the news feed. When you're browsing through Yahoo's homepage and looking at the news, they basically bury those ads in line. It's from a consumer point of view, it looks more or less like an article, so the click-through rates are strong, and basically you can buy that inventory based on people's previous search. And so in this case, they were bidding on the targeting they put in place was, I want to target people that are in market for buying the vehicle that I'm selling, and also people that search for my competitor, and then people that search for my brand. And that really drove strong performance, good volume. So I would recommend checking them out, and that's one of the publishers that we're definitely working closely with and recommending that our customers use some of their exploratory spend to try out.
Yahoo Gemini, thank you for letting us know about that. So it looks like that's it as far as questions. Patrick, anything else? Any last words?
No, I thank you all for coming today. I hope this was useful. And if there's any questions, I can be reached directly at phutchinson@Marin Software, or feel free to give us a phone call. We're always happy to have a conversation about your program and how we can help you. So thank you, everybody.
Awesome. Thanks again to Patrick and our partner Marin, and thank you all for joining us today. We hope you learned something. Keep an eye out on your inboxes tomorrow for a link to the recording, which you can watch on demand. Thanks again, and please enjoy the rest of your day.